Today we're joined with Conrad Ritchie. Conrad, can you just tell us who you are and what it is you do?
Conrad Ritchie. I am currently the chairman of two local charities. One is medically based and the other is a prison museum and with a hospitality wing. 53 years old, and I spent 38 years in the oil and gas industry.
Yeah, so we'll talk about the 38 years. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in a village called St Combs, which is just beside Fraserburgh.
Okay. And then where did you go for there?
I left school at 16, started my apprenticeship, and then I moved into Peterhead when I was 20. Stayed there for the next 5 years, and then a few years after that, after my apprenticeship was finished, I spent a bit of time with the company. I moved to Norway for a few years, and our second son was born in Norway.
Excellent. What did you do in Norway?
I was the manager of our workshop.
Okay. So that's Score Group.
Score Group, yeah.
Okay. So you done your apprenticeship at Score. You were the very first apprentice. Score are renowned for winning lots of awards for their apprenticeship program. So how was that? It was a family business.
Family business, yes. Started with my father, my late father, in 1982. I joined officially in 88.
Right.
I actually started my apprenticeship the week of the Piper Alpha incident.
Wow.
So that was kind of obviously a big deal.
Yeah.
And served my time, then went on to climb the ladder through the company. And then because I'd been the guinea pig, apprenticeships are always kind of really important to me in my heart.
Yeah.
It wasn't just our apprenticeship scheme was never bolted onto the side of the company. It was in the middle of the company.
It was part of it culturally.
The company was built around about it.
Yeah.
So over the course of time, I became more heavily involved in that, and we grew it into. At one stage, we were taking on 100 youngsters a year.
Yeah, I remember being at an awards ceremony. You guys won an award, and it was around about your apprenticeships. And I think it was something like, is it 114 apprentices or something absolutely insane?
Yeah, I mean, and it it didn't always work. But our philosophy was if we retain and keep more than we lose, then we're doing the right thing.
And how did you lose them? Through
a whole host of different reasons. I mean, if we lost them during their apprenticeship, it could have been for any different reason, a lack of effort, or usually lack of effort, or it just wasn't for them. But we did have, I mean, when you're going through a boom time, and other companies and service companies in particular don't really invest in apprentices, then your apprentices become and very, very valuable. It can be challenging to hold on to them.
Yeah. So you were the first apprentice. What made your dad decide to? Was it you were coming out of school and he had to find his son a job, or?
Well, my father also left school at 15, and he was an apprentice.
Yeah.
So it was always in him to start his own apprenticeship program. The philosophy of the company was always to give back.
Yeah.
And that was kind of installed in me as well, and it's still very much installed in me. So that was the philosophy. The skill set that we needed, the people just really didn't exist on the street.
Yeah.
And so we had to create them, and that's why we had the program. That's why it's still going today. Many of the apprentices are still with the company. They'll be in senior management roles. Some directors or managing directors will all be ex-apprentices traveling the world. And I mean, it's a great thing, and it's something that I'm very proud to be part of.
Yeah.
And I still feel part of it, although I'm not, but I still feel part of it.
Were you the only apprentice that year, or was there?
No, there was two of us, and then every year from them, 2 intakes a year. For about the first 5 years, that number doubled, and then it just took off.
Yeah. And Peter, I guess for the local community, Score was a big employer, and definitely for kids coming out of school, a great opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. We did a lot of work in primary schools, engineering clubs, secondary schools, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think we became the biggest employer round about the millennium, year 2000. Yeah, and I think still to this day they are likely the biggest employer in the area, and certainly of youngsters.
Things like going into schools and stuff, was that something that other companies did, or was that something you guys did?
No, other companies did it as well, but we found that youngsters were coming out of school not really ready for the world of work.
Yeah.
So we would have to spend the first 6 to 12 months of their apprenticeship getting them to the stage where they should have been coming out of school. The curriculum for excellence at the time, well, I kind of renamed it the curriculum for the excellent, because if you weren't in the top 10% of performers, you were pretty much shoved in a corner.
Yeah.
And not everybody's academic.
No.
And people mature at different times in life. We found that girls usually matured a good year before boys matured. And I'm not speaking about physically, I'm speaking about mentally. So again, when we were going into schools, we're going into primary schools, and we were trying to plant the seed. This was my journey. Yeah, this is what we do. This is what you could do in 4 years' time. And then we'd keep that going through, first year, second year, third year, fourth year in the academy. And what we found was kind of disappointing that academically, they were coming out of primary school better equipped to start an apprenticeship than they were 4 years later.
So why was that?
Because they were going into secondary school at the time, and the foundation, the arithmetic, the fractions, the decimals, that kind of thing, if they weren't really good at it, then there wasn't any backup. They just gave up in the academy, they'd give up, and then they would be pigeonholed. So we started up a free of charge engineering club, which was really a mathematics and arithmetic club that they could come along to in the summer holidays to kind of get them back up to where they were before they would apply for an apprenticeship.
So you're almost in tutoring.
Yeah. We did that for a number of years, and I think they're still doing it today.
And did you get a good uptake to that? Yeah, local kids.
Yeah, we didn't have enough spaces.
Wow.
Yeah, and that anybody could come.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean you had to apply for an apprenticeship with that company. We just kind of wanted to give something back, and we were interacting with the schools, and sometimes it was positive, sometimes it was negative. I was involved with the name's going for me now, but there was a lot of companies got together to form this kind of conglomerate of what can we do to make this better and change it for the better. So I was involved in that from the very start. But it kind of, like these things do, it kind of dies a death. So we just kept doing our own thing.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to do as far as cost and time and everything else when the companies are trying to
that was
train their own business.
There was a huge cost to that. I mean, from a negative aspect, the company a lot of times took negative publicity because apprentices' rates of pay are not great. But what people didn't understand really is that the investment on the individual to train them to get them to a level where they're competent is huge.
Yeah.
And there was no subsidies, there was no government assistance.
Yeah.
It came off of our bottom line.
Yeah.
And so if we didn't make it happen, it didn't happen.
Yeah. So when you say people were negative, is that because maybe other competitors would associate you guys as taking on cheap labour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
they just didn't understand the cost of it.
It wasn't the case.
Yeah.
You take on an apprentice at 16, they're maybe in their third year, they're beginning to add a bit of value.
Yeah.
But it takes at least 3 years for that to happen.
Yeah.
Our apprenticeship was 6 years. By the time they're coming out of their apprenticeship, they're a very special individual.
Yeah.
And the qualification is really, it's probably the most important document they'll have in their life.
Yeah.
Because they could, and it's proved time and time again, walk into a job because there was a certain kudos attached to that.
Yeah. And what about then, you mentioned some kids are academically sound and others less so. When you were recruiting apprentices, did you have a specific remit then, or was it just attitude, personality, drive?
Yeah, we would always change it. So we would have engineering fun days where they'd come along and they'd work with their hands. Then there would be academic tests, that kind of thing. we weren't looking for one skill set. We were looking across the board. We were looking for people that were academic. We were looking for people that weren't academic. And sometimes the people that weren't academic became academic. Yeah. So if they had served their time as a mechanical engineer, and at the end of that 6-year period, what we used to do is at the end of the 4-year period have a conversation what you want to do in relation to further education. If they wanted to go to university, then we would sponsor them to go to university, maybe 2 or 3 days a week, and they would still have an income because they were still working.
Yeah.
And again, so I mean, they're a bit later going into university, but you could usually knock off the first 2 years because most of them would already have an HND.
Yeah.
And by the time they came out of university, they had an apprenticeship and a degree. So they're flying. They're flying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no debt, no student debt.
Yeah. Yeah. They were still earning through the whole time.
Yeah.
So you were there 3 decades?
Yeah, nearly 4. Yeah.
Nearly 4 decades. Yeah. And how did that transition then? What was the wrap up at the end?
Well, so my father passed away 2017, quite unexpectedly. And I'd kind of been going on to him for years. We need to have a proper succession plan in place. And he was like, yeah, I'm thinking about it. We'll do something. And if he was not feeling great, it's not funny, but if he wasn't feeling great, you say, yeah, let's get round about the table and work this out. Okay. If he's feeling better, I've got another 6 years or 10 years on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, that wasn't the outcome. So he passed away, and I had a younger brother involved in the company as well. And like brothers are, we didn't always see eye to eye. And unfortunately, after a few years, it kind of came to fruition that the best option would be to sell the company. Very regretful, because we were a family company and we were all about people.
Yeah.
But the outcome's been, for the people, I think, quite favourable. The new owners are developing the company, they're investing in the company. They still have an apprenticeship program. So, I think that's all positive.
Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, I would still like to be there.
Yeah.
I still miss it every day. I miss the people. I really miss the stress.
And was there no option for you to remain there?
Well, I did remain for a short period of time, but then I think the new owners just decided that they wanted a clean break.
Yeah.
I mean, they wanted to respect the legacy of the family, but I can't speak on their behalf. But I think
They've got their own ideas.
They've got their own ideas.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's up to them.
Yeah.
The best of luck to them.
What year did your dad start the business?
1982.
82.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I guess you mentioned your brother there. So how was the business the cause of the kind of split between you and your brother?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're brothers, and we're still brothers, and we were kind of unique, I suppose, in that our family life and our business life was kind of one.
Yeah.
And we grew up from 1982, and the company was very much in our life before either of us started officially with the company. We would be working at nights, we were working at weekends, we were working at holidays.
Doing whatever your dad told you to do.
Doing what we were told to do, but it was great. It was great fun.
Yeah.
It was great fun, or we wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Basically. And it was a great foundation. So when I started my apprenticeship, I already 4 or 5 years in.
Knew the people, knew the building.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was number 164, so I was the 164th employee when I started. And so it was a big family, and you knew all the people, and as time goes on, these people are now passing away.
Yeah.
But I'm still in contact with the vast majority of them.
Yeah. And locally, I guess, as a hub, Scores and the people that have come through that training, apprenticeships and everything else is massive locally.
Yeah, and you bump into them all the time.
Yeah.
And you also bump into ones that weren't strong performers, and they'll sometimes come up to you and you think, oh, what's this? But usually it's positive.
Yeah.
Thank you for booting me in the arse.
Okay.
I needed it on multiple occasions. Or even, thank you for terminating my employment. It turned my life roundabout.
Right.
These minutes. I'm glad to say that I've hired more people than I've fired.
Yeah.
But there was a period of time where it was like, I'm going to get someone else to do this.
Mentally, it's tough.
Mentally, it's tough, especially if you begin to enjoy it.
Yeah.
If
You're so used to it.
If you begin to enjoy a disciplinary process, then you need to step away from it.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, almost 4 decades in oil and gas. You must have seen a good few downturns in that time. How challenging was things like that for Score Group?
Yeah, I would say in my, roughly one a decade. So in the last one, I became the managing director of the European company around about 3 or 4 months before the downturn kind of really took effect.
Yeah.
So knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And it was tough. It forced us to do things that we didn't really want to do. We actually made people redundant for the first time in the company's history. The downturns before that, we'd managed to avoid that. But this time, in the European company, at that time, we had about 950 employees.
Yeah.
And we ended up making 50 redundant, which in the big scheme of things was pretty good. And we buttoned down the hatches, and it was quite a tough time. But for me, again, personally, I think I perform better when
you're under that pressure.
Things are tough. Yeah, when things are smooth sailing, I get bored. So I actually, I wouldn't say I enjoyed a downturn, but I enjoyed it knowing that we're going to come out the other side and we're going to be in a stronger position, and we're going to perform well, and we did.
Grow.
Yeah, and we did. Yeah.
And what's been your biggest challenge? I guess, the time where you thought, fucking hell.
Yeah. Well, obviously, when my father passed away, it was a difficult one. That
was a shock.
It was a shock to everybody else, I think.
Okay.
Because he'd always been there. He was the founder. He was the chairman and the majority shareholder.
Still working every day?
Still working every day, yeah. Very much so. And then all of a sudden he's not there. So I think people's human instinct is, oh, what's going to happen? Are our jobs safe?
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So you're just you kind of go into autopilot, really, and it really is a bit like that. You just go into autopilot, you do what you have to do. You calm people down, you pull people together, and that's what we did. But yes, that first couple of years was very challenging. And then you go into a place where you're looking towards the future, and there was the potential of a sale. You got to keep that to yourself when you're going through that process. Yeah. So to a degree, you're kind of living a lie.
Yeah, and that's you kind of discuss it with everybody else.
That's not a pleasant place to be.
Yeah,
that's kind of personally that's tough.
And how long did that last?
18 months to 2 years. Yeah.
Were you just keeping that to yourself? Well, not just yourself, but a team of people.
Yeah, but a very small team.
Yeah,
I'm speaking. You could cut them in one hand.
Yeah.
And day to day, everything's normal. Let's push, and grow, and employ and train people. And
so that potential for sale, did that come out of your dad passing? Like, did that alert somebody and think, the Score Group might be?
Well, no, but it probably accelerated it. Yeah, I mean, my father had thought about it numerous times himself, but he couldn't bring himself to do it.
Yeah,
because it was his baby, and so I think he would have approved of the direction of travel that we took.
Yeah.
We did have options, obviously. I mean, we weren't necessarily looking for the highest bidder. We were looking for the right buyer.
Yeah, somebody would continue the legacy.
Somebody that would respect what had been done, what had been created, and particularly in the northeast of Scotland.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind at that time we had 36 global locations. But I mean, the 50% or more than 50% of the global employees were in the UK.
Yeah.
So it was a challenging time, but you had no option. You roll your sleeves up and get on with it.
And the sale process then, did you guys go to a private equity company? Was it somebody chapped on your door that you thought, actually, these are the right guys?
No, we engaged with various different organizations, and you know, that doesn't happen overnight, because you've got to try and control the rumor mill as well. And that was tough as well. You know, if somebody gets wind that that company is for sale, then it snowballs out of control, and that's damaging for employees' morale. So as I said, that was a particular challenge, and we ended up going down the private equity route. That was just the best fit.
Fair enough. And then looking at the North Sea and the oil and gas at the minute, what's your thoughts on the current situation here with the profit levies?
I might be a bit controversial here, but I think I think that it's a conservative estimate to say we've probably got 40 to 50 years left of oil and gas. We are probably one of the greenest oil and gas producers on the planet. You know, we contribute less than 1% of CO2 emissions a year when you compare that to the likes of India and China. So in relation to renewables and oil and gas, there has to be a marriage, but I really think that we're being forced down that route way too quick.
We're miles off it.
Way too quick, and you know, people's good jobs and people's futures are being put at risk. People are losing jobs because of a lack of investment, because, you know, we've got a government, Scottish government and a UK government, who are hell-bent in killing the industry, it would appear. Not granting new licenses or making it very, very difficult. That needs to change. That's just, I mean, why would you cut off your nose to spite your face? Why would you do that? It doesn't make sense. You know, we've got technology now that we didn't have 20, 30 years ago, that makes wells that were too expensive to drill now affordable, but they're putting investors off, and we're putting everything at risk. And we're importing oil and gas from Norway, and we're importing it from countries that don't really give a shit about what they're pumping into the atmosphere. And we do. If we're producing less than 1%, what's the point? You know, that's what I can't understand, why people, you know, we've got this green ideology thing. We have got to be green. We've got to be green. Fine, we'll do a bit, but we've been doing a bit for years by reducing emissions to the atmosphere. We're, you know, miles ahead of any other country in that regard, and we're importing it from countries that don't care.
At a cost. And what's your if you could change it, what would be your way to change it?
Well, renewables has got its place, right? But it's got to work. It's got to work. We've got to stop this crazy subsidies that these onshore and offshore wind farms are currently receiving for not producing anything. Then when they do produce, if we can't use it, we can't really store it. We don't really have the infrastructure to transport it or export it. So it's got its place, but for me, it's there, not centre. You know, we've still got a fantastic resource on our doorstep. Why aren't we using it? You know, we should be using it. So 50 years, I mean, that's a generation. A generation of tax, a generation of opportunities, a generation of jobs, and it's currently being jeopardized. And it's maybe too late. You know, it's maybe too late to say that.
And the worry is it becomes to the point where it is too late. So whether that's a government rethink or a government change or whatever else, but the biggest worry, definitely for your side, who work mostly with the supply chain, UK supply chain, if that changes too late, there will be no supply chain. Either they won't exist,
That's right.
or the people will be working in other countries because they've identified new international opportunities.
Well, we can see that just now. If you look at Aberdeen city centre, you know, it's not quite a ghost town, but it's
feeling the pain.
It's probably difficult to do business in Aberdeen city centre. It's certainly difficult to come into the centre, and not get fined or penalised. That shouldn't be the case. Yes, and we're chasing people away, and that's a travesty. And we have government ministers who are saying we can't survive because we're not, you know, our birth rate is too low, and we need to import labour. And yeah, I get that, but we are pushing people away. We're pushing our own labour away because the opportunities are not here for them.
Yeah, it's not attractive.
Or they're scared to commit, and I don't blame them. Because we've got a government who's hell-bent on killing industry, and the snowball effect, like you said, on the supply chain is huge.
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive.
I mean, these supply chains, you know, they take decades to build up.
Well, you mentioned you guys were in 50 countries.
Yeah.
So how easy is that? How long does that take? But you can achieve that because you're seen as experts in the industry, especially coming from the northeast. It's got that.
Yeah, well, I mean, geographical areas are different, aren't they? So I mean, in the vast majority of cases, I think the Middle East and Northern America is probably a bit different. You kind of have to be there because your clients basically are originating from these areas, so they expect you to be there. So breaking into those markets can be difficult, because they're mature. But other areas, I mean, like Alberta, Australia, Indonesia, that kind of places, Trinidad, Tobago, in most cases you're invited to come, and local authorities and local governments bend over backwards, especially when they see your apprentice training program. You say, well, we will do exactly the same there, which is what we did. We have replicated it.
So how easy is it to do that around the world in different countries and still keep the same culture, the same?
It's actually, culture is always a bit of a challenge, but it's actually easier to do it in other places generally than it is to continue to do it here.
Yeah.
Because the level of education is generally better.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's what we found. But actually hard to say it though, you know, but the level of education of the raw material was better to start off with, and there was government assistance available, and we were never an organisation that said, we're not going to do this unless you give us that.
Yeah.
It just wasn't our way. But if it came along, then thank you very much. We'll plough it back into the apprenticeship program.
So when you're moving into a new country, what's your kind of steps to do that? Are you looking at how are you going about hiring the right person? Are you sending someone from Aberdeen, or are you recruiting in country?
Yeah, in the vast majority of occasions, we would send a small team from the northeast of Scotland.
Okay.
A homegrown team, and they would go away and effectively build their own little new company.
Yeah. And did you have the same sort of structure each time? This is what we're doing. This is what we're going to start with, or did it depend?
Pretty much, depending on culture. I mean, you always had to kind of be a bit flexible with the local culture. So normally, what we would do is we would do that with a small team from the UK, primarily from the northeast of Scotland, and then we would employ local people. They would come back to the northeast of Scotland for maybe 6 months or a year, be trained, then go back to where they come from and pass that on.
Yeah.
And we replicated that in numerous different places around the planet. And still happened. Yeah.
And would that team or somebody else still oversee that to ensure they're still growing in the same mindset or same?
Yeah, in the vast majority of cases, the global directors or managing directors would be a Scot.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about, like, so you start as an apprentice, and then you've obviously produced, I don't know how many apprentices, hundreds and hundreds of apprentices.
Yeah, around about 2,000,
2,000 apprentices. Yeah. I mean, that's just insane, unbelievable numbers. When you see some of these guys, you mentioned some of them are new leaders, managers, directors, whatever. When you see some of these progress into managerial positions? What's your, I guess A, you must be proud, but B, what about, how do you guide them and maybe things that you've seen them where they're making mistakes that you've made in the past?
Yeah, well, they're, everybody's always getting mentored, aren't they?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what level you're at in the organisation. It's a two-way street, and we had an open door policy, so nobody's perfect, two-way street. But when you've got the family ethos, and you're a bigger team, my father used to say, if you're up to your shoulders in shit, then you're standing in mine. And that was absolutely true. And that's kind of an ethos through the whole organisation, and it's still there. The values are still very much there. And it's if you've got a problem, it doesn't matter where you're at on the planet, doesn't matter what time of day or night it is. You know that there's someone you can lift the phone to who's going to help you.
Yeah.
And the likelihood is you've worked closely with that person, or you've served your apprenticeship with that person. So that gives you a huge comfort.
And what about traits in leaders? What do you think a good leader needs?
Yeah, well, needs to be open and honest, approachable, not a dictator. Although my father could be a dictator at times, but he can get off.
Was he more a dictator to you and your brother than he was to everybody else?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you feel victimised?
Yeah, you just develop a thick skin, man. We didn't get off with anything. I mean, I didn't get off with anything. I at the time thought, why am I doing this? Why am I continually putting up with this? But when I look back now, I wouldn't say I was being groomed.
It was an education.
But I was being mentored. But at the time, it didn't feel like it. At the time, it was just like relentless. Give me a break.
Yeah, just brutal.
Yeah, but then there's a point in life there's a switch goes, and you think, okay, and now I understand why, and that's invaluable, because it puts you in the same mindset.
Yeah. And you said you still miss it every day.
Yeah.
But going for working for a global business with almost 1,000 employees to not working, how did that affect you?
It's quite hard, but it happened. I think it was probably a good thing, because it happened right at the same time as COVID.
Okay.
So the whole world was turned upside down. So I was at home like most people were. My circumstances were different. So I think it kind of helped me, because it stopped me potentially reacting in a negative manner. It gave me time to think. Yeah, we all had time to think. I had 2.5, 3 years basically, which we've all lost.
Yeah.
So that kind of helped me. But yeah, it was tough. As I say, I still miss it. I would still prefer to be there, but I'm not. As time goes on, you learn to live with it and accept it, and you move on, and you find other things to occupy your mind.
Yeah. You're involved now in charities quite heavily. So what was the driver there? I guess locally, the business, the apprenticeship thing, it's obviously a core part of you and your family. But
yeah, I mean, it's pretty much all to do with corporate social responsibility, which is something as an organisation we were
big on,
very much aware of. We always kind of like to do it if we could under the radar. Yeah, we weren't big into sponsoring football teams or that kind of thing. We would like to go in the back door and effectively help people. So about 12 years ago, we created a charity which is called Crimin Charitable Trust, which the purpose we did that was to create a new community medical centre and a hub in the vicinity where a vast majority of our employees came from.
Okay.
Because the service that was currently there was being it looked like it could potentially close. So we thought, well, that's not good for our employee base. So that's what we did. We built and funded this new medical hub, which came at a really difficult time, because the bills started coming in right at the same time as the last downturn, right, the last big downturn. So it was kind of a difficult challenge with your employees when you're potentially making people redundant, but you're funding a medical hub, which ended up costing about £7.5 million.
Wow.
To complete.
How long did that take?
The process took about 5 years. It took about 4 years to get planner permission.
Wow, okay.
And then a couple of years to build it. And so now I'm the chairman of that trust, and we have adult daycare, we have physiotherapy, we have mental health charity, district nurses, we've got a GP surgery, a pharmacy, all in the same building, and we're fully occupied now. During COVID, we lost a few of our tenants. It was a bit tough, but now we're back to 100%, so it's doing exactly what it's.
As a local community, though, that must be a massive.
Yeah, it's a big thing. Yeah, it's a big thing, and something that I couldn't ever I couldn't envisage walking away from it.
Yeah,
it's too much of a responsibility.
And then the Peterhead prison. What happened there? How did that come about?
Yeah, so it became available for sale.
What does a prison cost?
Yeah, well, it's not so much the cost; it's the maintaining the prison. It's again, Victorian buildings are not cheap to maintain. So it became available. It was right next door to our Glenyugie site, which is the head office. And we thought, yeah, there's an opportunity. We can do something here. It wasn't not initially going to make it into a museum, but it was very secure storage, as you could imagine. And at the time, our training company, which was growing quite, we had a training multimedia company in-house, was growing rapidly. We needed more space, so initially we moved them into what was the old gym facility and created a bespoke training workshop, classrooms, all that kind of thing. And then one day we just thought, let's do something for the local community and make it into a museum. And that's what we did. It took about a year and a half.
Not just the local community. I mean, you've got people traveling all over Scotland to come to the.
People travel all over the world to come. So we've got that now. We've got a cafe. We've got a lifeboat exhibit, which we created, and it's doing well. It struggled through COVID. Obviously, there was no government support, and in the first couple of years after, we kind of struggled again. But we're kind of over that hurdle, I think.
Yeah.
And it's employing local people and good relationship with the local schools, that kind of thing.
So you seem like somebody who likes to be pretty constant. You said you work better under a wee bit of stress.
Yeah, I have to be occupied.
Yeah, so
I have to be busy.
What do you do when you're no occupied? Because there's people that struggle when they're no occupied.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit of a petrol head.
Okay,
it's not a hobby, it's a disease.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got a small collection of classic vehicles that I refurbish and maintain and take to shows, that kind of thing. I love working on my hands. Yeah. So I really love working on my hands when I was on the tools and when I was an apprentice, obviously. But then as you develop in the company, that kind of diminishes. So in my spare time, I'm back doing what I was doing before, and it's ripping things apart, working out how they work and trying to fix them.
Excellent. And you've got kids, grandkids?
Yeah. Well, I've got 2 grown boys. They both serve their time as well as engineers, and I just became a grandfather a month ago. So that's a kind of different dynamic.
Fantastic.
I've been waiting a long time for it, so I'm not getting any younger.
So you're getting on granda duties now?
Hopefully it'll come, yeah. Hopefully. Yeah.
And then, I guess if you were to look back now and you were mentoring a 16-year-old young apprentice, somebody just starting off in their career, what would be your advice to them?
My advice to them is it hasn't really changed. It's just look towards the future. Don't look at the point of your nose. When you come into your work on a Monday morning, or particularly in the first year of their apprenticeship, so they're full-time training off the job. When you come in on a Monday morning, know where you're going to be on a Friday at 4 o'clock. And if you're not there at 4 o'clock on a Friday, then on the following Monday, analyse what went wrong. Was it you? 9 times out of 10 it would be, did you apply enough effort? Are you lost? Do you need more assistance? But I'm always the kind of person who's, I have to have a plan B or a plan C. Again, never put all your eggs in one basket. So when you're looking to where you want to be, you need to have okay, you've got a daily plan, a weekly plan, but push it out to 5 year. Yeah. Where are you at 5 years time? Where are you at in 10 years time? Where are you at in 15, 20 years time? Because if you haven't got the vision to know where you're going, then you're a rudderless ship. Yeah, you've got to be, you're the master of your destiny.
So where will you be in 5 years? Are you a rudderless ship?
Well, I don't know where I'll be in 5 years. I've got quite a lot of irons in the fire. I'm involved politically now at the moment, doing things politically. So, and again, that's trying to give back to society.
Yeah. Is that something you enjoy, or something you feel like you need to be involved in?
Yeah, a bit of both. I mean, I've always been politically motivated.
Yeah.
But I've always been driven to try and make a positive change, particularly in the northeast of Scotland. And a lot of things I'm not happy about politically, and haven't been for years. And
so you decided now to get involved?
Yeah, if I can make a positive change, that's what I'm going to try to do. And I'm fortunate that I'm in a position in life where I can make time to do it.
Yeah.
I've tried before. I've run for things before, but I was working full time, more than full time. So I had the determination to do it, but I really didn't have the time.
Yeah.
But now I'm in a position where I can move things around about and make time, because it soaks up your time.
So what changes would you like to see in the northeast?
I'd like to see more local control. I'd like to see the revenue it's generated in the northeast reinvested in the northeast. I think in Scotland we've suffered from a central belt bias, particularly in terms of infrastructure, and business rates that are gathered in the northeast of Scotland, in my view, should be invested in the northeast of Scotland, and that is absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
And that's, again, that scares away investment, I think. So I mean, there's loads of things. Our health service is crumbling. Education is a massive thing. If you turn the clock back 25, 30 years, our education system was the envy of the world. Now we're at the bottom of the ranks. Yeah, and that must change. So there's a lot of things. Loads of things. It's a long list. But I don't want
It'll keep you busy for a while.
I don't want to be too negatively political, but it's difficult not to be.
And then just regards you, so everybody knows you, your story, where you've worked.
Yeah.
What do people know about Conrad?
Not a lot, but what can I say? Well, if I look back to my childhood, I've got a few things that are ingrained in my mind. I was very accident prone, so by the time I was 10 years old, my mother would have a count of how much stitches I had. So I think it was around about 140 at age 10.
From what?
Thinking it was Evil Knievel, that kind of thing. When I was 3 years old, I climbed to the top of Ben Nevis with my dad.
Wow.
And my older brother, and I can remember being in primary school and telling that story, and the teachers were like, "That's a load of rubbish, it didn't happen." Well, it did happen. And then at the age of 7, maybe 7.5, I was a Highland dancing champion. Difficult to believe now, but the swords and everything. I can remember this vividly, one day being in the class, and my mum turned around at my mum and said, "Mum, why am I the only boy in this class?" And I can't remember what she said, but that was the end of my dancing career. I never went back.
That was it?
That was it. Done.
You got to an age where you realised?
I realised I was the only boy in the class. I thought, no, not enjoying this.
So you're a good dancer then?
I was.
You were?
I was.
And then to just wrap things up, we're in a bar, so what's your drink of choice?
Wine. I'm not a spirit drinker, and I'm not a beer drinker, so I'm in the wrong place.
That's fine. Conrad, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.